My name's Michael Young, and I'm the Chief Public Defender in Bexar County. And we've had a mental health court and a mental health public defender program for about the last 7 or 8 years. So, and I know many of you do as well. So I think we all recognize the need for special treatment for defendants in the criminal justice system who suffer from a mental illness. I promise you I'm not getting a royalty for this, but I would highly recommend Dr. Kelly's book, Criminal Justice at the Crossroads. I'll be, I actually, it was so good. I bought copies of it for our commissioners and our judges. It really lays out the failure of the complete, tough on crime mentality. And I think it shows a lot of the opportunities we have. So one of the things that I want to talk about is that we're doing a little different is we are providing public defenders at first court appearance. You've heard it called magistration. You've heard it called arraignment by Bill Lee from New York. We are actually there at the jail. Now, I think that is critical. I know Andrea Marsh talked about it during her speech when she talked about Gillespie, the Gillespie County case. Frankly, I believe you have an absolute Sixth Amendment right to counsel at that hearing. Now, Rothkari versus Gillespie County didn't quite go that far, but I think they were hinting around at it because it is so critical. Because we know that if you're in jail or not has a huge impact on whether somebody pleads. It's absolutely a coercive effect. And if it's going to be something that's going to determine case outcome, whether you plead guilty or not, you should have counsel at first representation. Now, I know Harris County is starting a program to provide that to everyone, every defendant who goes through. As Elise said, they're trying to do it in Collin County. Cameron County has an attorney of the day program that they're doing where they're trying to have counsel at that first arraignment. So I think we're not the only ones. It's kind of becoming more prevalent and hopefully will become the standard. I know when Representative Murr was talking this morning, he mentioned the fact that maybe in some of these small jurisdictions, how is the JP going to know what to do about a bond? They're going to consult a computer or they're going to call. No, the answer is to have a defense attorney there to tell you that client's story because that's what we're doing. Now, we're only limited to working with the ones who suffer from a mental illness. So what we do, our attorneys, one of them's here with us today, Ms. Brown, they'll talk to the client. They'll gather information, they'll call their employers, they'll call their family, they'll paint that good picture of that person to present to the magistrate. Because usually, what does the magistrate have to make a decision about a bond? What's the charge and what's the criminal history? And that's pretty much it. And even if you have a pretrial services who can give you some kind of risk score, it still doesn't breathe life into that person. So I would encourage Representative Murr and anyone else to look at requiring counsel at first magistration through statute if we don't do it through litigation. Also, as Bill Leahy talked about from the New York State, that was one of the ways they kind of led into having the state pay for this statewide defender system because they started by kind of providing counsel at first magistration funded by the state. And that kind of leads us down that path. So I hope that the legislature will look at that as part of their interim charges. So what are we doing? We are only able to represent those suffering from a mental illness. There is a different mechanism for how do we identify those persons. But obviously this is happening really quick. Our attorneys are at the jail. We staff the jail. We wanted to do 24/7, but we don't have enough money, so we do 24/5. We have a shift from 7 to 3, 3 to 11, and 11 to 7. Because in Bexar County, they do 24-hour magistration like they do in a lot of the bigger counties. We have a mechanism, and I won't go into the details, of how we identify who is going to be a client, how we approach them. We've been there 2 years. We're just completing our second year. And I'll tell you, it's been quite a job to develop all the logistics and the mechanics of how that works. If anyone's interested, our first year report, I can email it to you. My email is really easy, michael.young@bear.org. And for some people, BEXAR, not BEA. But I'll be glad to share that with you. It really details kind of the logistics of what we're doing and some of the results. So, what have we learned by providing representation at these hearings? First, there is a ton of institutional resistance to defense attorneys being in the jail and talking to people right after the police drop them off. The jailers hated us. The police hated us. Some of the antics were completely sophomoric. I mean, they would put us in the coldest part of the jail. They put us right under a vent. And so I had to buy jackets, literally parkas, for our attorneys because they would crank down the air on us in there. But you know what? After 2 years, because when we first started, I spent a lot of time out there, so because I was trying to learn the process myself and I was doing some of the representations. Once we got it running, my attention went elsewhere. But this last week, I had one attorney out on maternity leave and one out on vacation, so I was covering a shift. And the change was amazing. I mean, we were now part of the system. I mean, the judges were coming to me and saying, hey, you need to fill out this form, and this is the paper you use for that. And the jailers were coming by and going, hey, maybe you want to talk to this guy. So in a year, we went from being completely unwelcome to just being part of the process out there at the jail. And so if you encounter resistance to something like that at first, don't be discouraged because it will change, and you just have to get your foot in there a little bit. What else did we learn? One of the things that I was afraid of, and that frankly the judges told me they were afraid of, was malingering. So what are you offering? Well, we're offering a PR bond conditioned on attendance at mental health counseling and supervision by pretrial. So everybody was telling us, well, everybody's going to claim to have a mental illness then. Everybody's going to want it. Everybody's going to pretend that they have a mental illness. I can tell you the exact opposite is true. There's such a stigma on mental illness that even if we identified clients that we knew had an issue, they would deny it. People didn't want the services because they didn't want that label of suffering from a mental illness. So absolutely malingering has not been an issue. What else we found is better outcomes. And I know everything today is data-driven. So as I told you, we wanted to staff 24/7, but we could only do 24/5. And so this program allows pretrial services to put some people into this mental health program PR bond when we're not there. So actually what that does for it creates two good pools of people to study. The ones that the public defender represents and gets into the mental health PR bond, and the one that pretrial alone talks to and gets into the bond. And what we found is the ones that we talk to have higher compliance, they show up for court, they remain in treatment, because we have a seamless handoff, right? We represent them at central magistration, so they're immediately talking to a lawyer, and then they're transitioned to our mental health public defenders at the courthouse. And the comment was made to me by pretrial, because they supervised both our clients and the ones we didn't see, that they always know somebody that we had seen when they come in to report, because they're like, I've already talked to a lawyer. I know what's going on. I don't have to wait to go to court. They're actually very proud to show up and talk about the fact that they've already been counseled about what's going on in their case. They show up more often. They show up for court, and they don't reoffend. We've actually found that there's been some incredibly good outcomes with that. So what's next for us? Well, we want to compare the outcomes, meaning the case dispositions, for the clients that we got out on a PR bond versus the private bar, or people who didn't get this bond. We know what our guys do. Our attorneys do a great job. We get a large percentage of them dismissed. And this is why. When I was in private practice, and you know celebrities do this all the time, when you get caught, first thing you do is you go to treatment, right? I mean, that's what I would advise my rich clients when they would hire me back when I was in private practice. I would say, oh, you got pulled over for a DWI? Let's get you in alcohol counseling right now. So when we go talk to the DA, I can say, look, he's been addressing this problem for blah, blah, blah. So that's what our attorneys are able to do. They're able to say, look, first day of court, this guy's been reporting to treatment once a week for the last 3 months. This guy's doing really well. We've had situations, this guy's in public housing, you know, and if you give him this minor drug conviction, he's going to get kicked out, but he's been doing all this good stuff. So we're basically able to present a really positive view of our client when we go to court. And we've been working with them closely for the last several months while their case was pending. What I really want to look at is long-term recidivism. How many of these people, if we address their issues, don't reoffend? I can tell you it's amazing the desire for treatment, because when we talk to these people, they want help and they recognize it. And one of the things that we do is we tell them, look, we can get you in this program. You're going to have to do treatment. You're going to have to report to pretrial once a week. You're actually probably going to be here in jail maybe, you know, another 10 hours because we're going to have to work through all this stuff. You can just go, probably your bond's going to be $1,500, $150 you can pay and get out. But we have this program if you want treatment. What we're finding is people are willing to wait longer in jail because they want the treatment, and they're willing to accept these other conditions because they'll say things like, you know, I didn't even know where to start. I know I have an issue, but I don't know what to do. So the people are highly motivated to get this kind of help, and it's really impacting the final outcomes for them. If anybody would like to come down and look at what we're doing, you're all welcome. I've certainly learned a lot from Elise. We got to go up and see her program. There's ideas all over the place, but my bottom line is I hope that we will extend the right to counsel at these magistration hearings to everyone, not just to the mentally ill, because I do think it is a critical stage, and I do think it's going to impact final case outcomes. Thank you.